Okay, so this is gonna sound completely and totally insane, but I moved all the way from Atlanta, Georgia to Portland, Oregon, and I moved completely and totally on my own. I didn't have any savings, I had no job, I had nowhere to live, and I didn't know anybody in Portland. I'm gonna tell you how to move to a new state or even just a new city with no job and no money. I'm gonna tell you what I wish that I knew, and I'm gonna give you no BS advice. This is gonna come straight from the heart, and I'm going to keep it real with you guys. So first of all, don't let people tell you that you cannot do this. Or I guess another way to say that is, don't let other people limit your own potential. You wanna build up positive potential energy to make this move because it is a lot. It's a lot, but it is possible. And you wanna share this advice with people who are going to encourage you. You are in control of your destiny. You are in control of your life. Do not put yourself in a box. Do not limit yourself in your life to one path. So if this is something that you want to do, you can absolutely do this. Don't let other people tell you that you can't, because you absolutely can. So for number 2, I'm going to be talking about the actual steps that I took to make this move happen from Atlanta, Georgia to Portland, Oregon. I'm going to break everything down. So I, first of all, planned out the trip from Atlanta all the way to Portland. I packed everything that I needed in my car. I only packed the essentials, and I traveled across the country. I made sure to map out all the gas stations on the way and all the hotels on the way. And when I got to Portland, I stayed at an Airbnb for a week. And I told myself, I am going to figure out my next step while I'm staying at this Airbnb for a week. I truly did figure this whole thing out step by step, and that's exactly what you can do. From that week stay at the Airbnb, I then decided to stay at a hostel called, I think it's called Lolo Pass. I stayed there for about 3 weeks. During that first month, that first week I stayed at the Airbnb, then for 3 weeks I stayed at the hostel. So for that first month, I looked for a room for rent and I looked for a job. When I was job searching, I made sure to apply for jobs that I could get immediately. So my first couple jobs were lunch lady, and I was working for Amazon. And I did those 2 things for a while. Also during that first month, I searched for a room to rent. There's a lot of rooms for rent in Portland and in other major cities. So as you can see, I'm taking small steps to get to the bigger picture. You're probably wondering, how did you do this if you didn't have any savings? Like, how did you feed yourself? How did you do XYZ? Like I said, didn't have any savings. So what I did was I took out a personal loan before I moved to Portland. I took out a $3,000 personal loan, and I made sure to allocate that money only for things that I absolutely needed, like groceries, toiletries, a down payment on a room to rent, stuff like that. Only the essentials. After I got kind of into the rhythm of things, then I started to look for a better job that pays more so that I can get my own apartment. And that's exactly what I did. And then I was able to afford my very first apartment ever in my life. The third thing that I wish that I knew was that I would have to find healthy ways to cope with loneliness. I didn't realize how much loneliness was going to affect me until after I moved. At the time of the move and getting everything situated, there was a lot of focus on getting things set up. And so I didn't really have a lot of time to feel the loneliness. But then when everything started to settle, I started to feel that I was alone a lot of the time. I didn't have any friends, I didn't have any family. So I would advise you to find a good support system and to utilize 2 things. Number 1, meetup.com. I have found incredible friends on meetup.com. And if you don't know what meetup.com is, you can basically type in your zip code and your hobbies and interests, and it'll show you different groups of people who are meeting up in person or virtually, engaging in those hobbies and interests and networking and connecting. It's a great way to meet new people. And also just going out and doing things like I joined Muay Thai gym. I met a really awesome friend there. So just really making sure to put yourself out there. It can be scary at first, but it's worth it. It's definitely better than trying to white knuckle the feelings of loneliness. So for number 4, I would say that it is worth circling back to reiterate that you will have to take what you can get at first. It is very smart. It is a smart move to first find a job first or lock down a place to live first. If you can do those 2 things first before you move, it's gonna make a whole hell of a difference, but it's honestly not that necessary. And if you were to prioritize one of those 2 things, honestly, I would say that securing a room for rent first would be the smartest way to go, in my opinion. And the jobs. You know, some people are like, I don't want to work at Subway. You know, I don't want to work in a library. I'm not passionate about that. But it's like, listen, you're going to have to do the jobs at first that you don't want to do so that you can set yourself up to get the job that you want to have later on. You know, if you're doing something like this, you have to be the kind of person that is okay with roughing it. And if you are not the kind of person that can just adapt to any situation, this is not the move for you. Do not do that. Do not do this. You will be completely miserable. You have to be someone who is able to adapt to new situations. As for my last line of advice, this is really tough, but it is completely and totally worth it. Many things in life that are challenging, the most challenging things in life, are the most rewarding. This is not an exception to that rule. There were times that I felt like I couldn't do this anymore. I thought that I was gonna move back to Georgia. I felt like it was too much, too overwhelming. And honestly, relying so heavily on just myself was new and completely and totally terrifying. After I got used to it, it turned out to be exceptionally liberating. And I was able to develop skills that I didn't have before. It feels great. I am so happy that I made this move. I'm so happy that I made this change. I'm so glad that I didn't let limiting beliefs stop me, like not having a job, not having anywhere to live or any money. And I'm glad that I didn't let people stop me from doing this, because this is the thing that I needed to do for myself to be happy. Another line of advice that I would give is to take it step by step. Write down your main goal of moving, how you want your life to look after you've moved, and then figure out what steps you would have to take daily and weekly in order to get to that goal. So I personally decided to move to Portland, Oregon because I think it's beautiful out here. The Pacific Northwest is full of mountains and trees and water, and that's what makes me feel grounded and happy. But I want to ask you, if you could drop a comment below, tell me what city in the United States you would move to if you had the choice. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you've made it this far, I think you might like this video a little bit. So if you could leave me a like and maybe even subscribe, that would be amazing. I like to post content about personal growth and wellness here on YouTube, and I'm going to keep it coming. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.